Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll talk to the new Mexican ambassador to the United States about the relationship between U.S. and Mexico, immigration, and other issues. And learn about a program in Maricopa County that's partnering with people in the community to help veterans re-enter into everyday life. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Jose Cardenas, in tonight for Ted Simons. As the U.S. presidential campaign progressed and the rhetoric about Mexico became a political issue, the government of Mexico confirmed Carlos Sada as its ambassador to the United States in April. Sada has been Consul General in Los Angeles for 3 years and previously served at Mexican consulates in Chicago, New York, Toronto, and San Antonio. The ambassador is here in Arizona participating in a discussion on Mexico-U.S. relations today and tomorrow, The Case of Arizona, presented by the McCain Institute and the Phoenix Committee on Foreign Relations. Joining me now is Mexican Ambassador Carlos Sada. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to Horizon.
Muchas gracias. Thanks so much.
This is an interesting time to be in Arizona. The day after the election, I looked at your Twitter account. You sent a message congratulating the United States on its electoral process and expressing hope for cooperation in the bilateral relationship. I know it was a sincere message, but you must have had mixed emotions.
Well, actually, as a representative of Mexico in different countries, in different places, we are always to work with the authorities that peoples of their countries decide. So, and it is the case, so we do not have preferences, and we make the contacts with whoever has been elected. That is the case of the United States, and we are ready to start working with Mr. Trump, with his cabinet, and with whoever is being appointed for serving in different capacities. That is our role, and we will continue to do so.
Now, I know that a number of foreign leaders have indeed been in contact directly with the president-elect. President Peña Nieto, has he talked to President-elect Trump?
Yeah, the very next day of the election, President Peña Nieto had a conversation, telephone conversation with Mr. Trump, and as it was said by the President of Mexico, we'll continue developing the contacts as long as they start appointing some of the people that's going to be directly serving with him.
Now, the events that led up to your appointment reflected some difficulties, or at least some statements by the now president-elect about Mexico that made Mexico feel it needed to improve its image in the United States and to counter some of what it viewed as damage by Mr. Trump in his comments. You were appointed. There was a marketing campaign, so to speak, that was initiated. How did that go? What's your assessment of the impact that that had?
We try to have the best of the relationship when we are posted. In this case, we had the obligation, I had the responsibility of contacting both teams. The team of Mrs. Hillary Clinton, of course, and the team of Mr. Trump. So that's we did it. We do not come here to interpret or to have a extreme position, but rather to understand what is happening and to try to build the connections and the bridges with, in this case, the two candidates. I know that my appointment was in the middle of this political campaign, but as I arrived, we started also developing a relationship with the two teams.
And you also, though, there was an effort, I've seen some of the videos, to educate the American populace about the relationship with Mexico and maybe dispel some of the myths that had been spreading. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's very true, Mr. Cardenas, because there is a distortion and misinterpretation and misunderstanding of the role that Mexico plays in the relationship with the United States. We are, of course, neighbors, we are friends, but more importantly, so we are strategic allies, and we are one of the best partners, economically speaking, of the United States. So how to position that message in the minds of American people so that they understand the depthness of this relationship. When we talk that we represent 15% of all the exports of the United States to the world, 15% of them go to Mexico. And when we have a bilateral trade that every day represents 1.5 billion, would be $1 billion. And when there is a community along the border that every day crosses that border in 1 million people, and the 370,000 cars and trucks cross that border, and it's just a matter of approaching the border, going to the border, to see how the towns along the border has been transformed. I've been visiting the border for the last 30 years perhaps, and I've seen how small, tiny villages have been transformed totally. And this is what I saw yesterday in Nogales, how the number of warehouses, trailers moving back and forth, and the new approaches, new mechanisms for expediting trade between Mexico and the United States. That's what I see. And that's what we want to project, how relevant it is, the relationship with, between Mexico and the United States. That is fundamental.
And I know that's a fundamental part of your visit to Arizona. Yes. We want to talk about what you've been doing in Nogales, Tucson, and now in Phoenix. But before we get there, the president-elect made Mexico a particular focus of his campaign, and in particular talked about building a wall. And renegotiating NAFTA. And I'd like to talk first about the wall, which is pretty controversial. In his post-election comments, he has reiterated that he intends to do something about that. What's Mexico's view of that and the likelihood that anything like that will occur? And then, of course, the famous question, is Mexico going to pay for the wall?
Well, of course, that we like very much to build bridges. And that is what Mexican people decided, and that's what the President of Mexico also have entrusted in the sense of how to strengthen the relationship. And the relationship is improved if you continue building bridges of communications and bridges between the two societies. That is our approach, and that's why Mexico decided some years ago to become an international player, a global actor. How so? Well, by signing agreements with 46 nations in the world. So that's what is our approach, and we will continue to do so. As we speak, we are negotiating an agreement with Turkey, and another one with Jordania, and another one with Brazil or so. So that is our approach. It is not up to us to decide if there's going to be a wall or not. But if you ask me, do we like to have a wall? And we said, no, we do not like to have a wall. Is Mexico going to pay for it? No, Mexico is not going to pay for it. That's very statement, a unique statement that we continue doing so, because that was what the President of Mexico said. It was said to Mr. Trump when he visited Mexico, and different secretaries of state of Mexico have mentioned, and I have mentioned, that this is something that Mexico is very determined in the sense that we are not going to pay for the wall.
Now, what about NAFTA? Unlike the wall, which many people think it's not very realistic that it will actually be built, and certainly that Mexico will pay for it. NAFTA is something that comes within the purview of the president. He probably doesn't need congressional approval. And he said he's either going to renegotiate it or tear it up. Your views on that?
Well, actually, what we have said is NAFTA is a trilateral agreement that, of course, could be kind of put on the negotiation with a signing of President Trump. But at the same time, we feel that NAFTA is not well understood what benefits have created for the whole region. When I mention the whole region, it is the three countries, Mexico, United States, and Canada. And that is fundamental, because we do not want to lose what we have gained. And what have we gained? A reputation worldwide to being one of the most, if not the most competitive region in the world. That's why we keep attracting investment in Mexico, and that's why the United States keep attracting investment from all over the world. That is the reason, and that is the arguments that we want public of the United States to understand well, that we are not the enemies, we are neighbors, we are partners, we are strategic allies, and we are, of course, friends. This is the message that we want to be sent. And this relationship has been built, Mr. Cárdenas, for long, so it is not new. It's been generation after generation that have been in this process of trusting each other. And since NAFTA, I think we have benefit because there is 5 million jobs being created in the United States because of exports to NAFTA. And Arizona is a very good example of it. 40% of total exports of Arizona goes to Mexico. And there is a renewed interest of Arizona in opening spaces in Mexico for promoting trade in Mexico and Arizona. But the same is true with 33, 34 states of the United States out of the 50. All these states, number one, second, or third partner, it is not Europe or not Asia. It is precisely a country that is very close to you that is called Mexico.
Do you anticipate, though, that Mexico will enter into negotiations regarding a revision of
Well,
NAFTA?
what we have said, Mr. Cárdenas, is that we would like to modernize NAFTA. What do we mean by modernizing? TPP was seen from our perspective of a way of modernizing NAFTA. It was a
You're
step,
referring to the Trans-Pacific Partnership
yes,
Treaty.
the Trans-Pacific Partnership, yes. And Mexico, as we speak also, is now negotiating NAFTA in the Senate. Sorry, negotiating TPP in the Senate. It's being debated, and hopefully so very soon we have an authorization of the Senate of Mexico to move forward in whatever TPP is from the perspective of Mexico. And we've been also negotiating and talking with other 11 countries that are present as part of NAFTA. NAFTA is 12 members. So if the United States says no, well, we as a sovereign nation, we are going to decide what elements of TPP are convenient for us if it is the case. For instance, we do not have a trade deal with Japan, a big one, or with Australia, or with New Zealand. What are they prepared to offer? We can put perhaps some of the elements of TPP into the table for modernizing NAFTA.
Let me ask you about immigration, because that was the other big issue in the campaign. There have been reports that Mexico is preparing in the event that President-elect Trump follows through on his promises to deport millions of Mexicans here without papers. What can you say about that?
Well, yes, we have a structure of 50 consulates in the United States, and that is a unique case of a country in another country, and it is because there is a presence of Mexican community, but also because they are, again, bridges between our representatives from Mexico and local authorities and local business people and local media also. The last one that we opened was in Milwaukee because there was a special request of elected people in the state of Wisconsin. So we serve a purpose. And within the consulates, we have an area that is called Department of Protection in order to help our people. As you know, the representations of Mexico are mainly for protecting the interests of our people. So the message that we want to send because of what has been created as an image regarding immigration is that our people should be calm, that we are here to help them. We cannot anticipate so far what is going to happen because there is not a specific element, but we are ready to trigger whatever mechanisms it is possible to do so with our people in order to protect the best interests of our community. Yesterday I was with the head of sector of Homeland Security, but mainly so with Border Patrol, discussing what is the situation with our community, how they have been treated. But we've been doing this, Mr. Cárdenas, for long, so it is not new. We have developed mechanisms along with the authorities here to communicate and to talk openly and to discuss strategies. So that is something that we'll put on table once we know what is going to happen.
I want to talk about your visit to Arizona, but before I do that, one last question on immigration. For the thousands of people in the United States of Mexican descent who may be in danger of losing, for example, their DACA status, where can they go for information? I know you have a program, Estamos Contigo, we're with you, but what other sources of information can they access?
Well, we have developed in this last month new approaches in the sense of getting better ways of informing our people, not only because they are going to Mexico, not necessarily, but if they are here, there is a center that's called Centro de Información y Atención a Mexicanos. It's like a call center that is precisely in Tucson with 40, 50 people that are answering the phone permanently, and the same another 1-800 that is 24/7. So to give information. That's very important that you mentioned this, Mr. Cárdenas, because we do not want people that abuse of the situation of migrants, so we want them to have proper and solid information from us. So we do not want people to speculate, and we do not want our people to get into the hands of somebody that makes a profit out of their situation, out of their vulnerability. And apart from that, we are moving forward with what we call consulates on wheels, so that we bring the services to where the people are. and this is something we've been doing for several years in different locations, but now more importantly so. So we're trying to be upfront, and the same way in the Department of Protections of all the consulates, we have the lawyers that they will take care that the due process is being followed by any person that is in the process of being deported, if it is the case.
Mr. Ambassador, we're almost out of time, and I apologize for that. But very quickly, your message to Arizona. You were in Nogales, you were in Tucson, you're in Phoenix. You'll be talking tonight about the Arizona-Mexico relationship. In just a short few words, what is the message?
Well, actually, I'm very impressed what I've seen in Arizona. I haven't been here for a while, and the message is people here is really seeing Mexico as an alternative. Say 40% of total trade of Arizona goes to Mexico, and the mentality of people in Arizona, the mayors and the business community, it is connected to Mexico. Every day more and more people from Arizona, the business capacity, they go to try to develop new jobs, new businesses together. So that is the message, but also it is not only happening with Arizona, it is with all the border states, back and forth, the four of them here and the 6 of them in Mexico. So it's a very positive attitude that we have to communicate, and that is my challenge in particular, how to communicate the enthusiasm that exists for continuing doing business in the United States and Mexico, and also projecting this region as the most competitive region in the world. A very safe, productive, progressive Mexico is in the best national interest of the United States also. We are a region.
I think you have communicated your enthusiasm, and we thank you for joining us on Horizon to talk about it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Get the inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
Vets Community Connections is a new program being launched nationally in 3 locations in Arizona and across the country in Maricopa County to help veterans connect with members of the community who can help them re-enter into everyday life. With me now to talk about the program is Catherine Rea, CEO of 211 Arizona, and Felix Zayas, an Iraq veteran, West Point graduate, and CEO of Harbinger Technologies Groups. Catherine, tell us quickly what this program is all about.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for having us on. I'm with Community Information and Referral Services, and we've been around in Maricopa County in Arizona for over 52 years now, providing information and referral to health and human services, primarily in Maricopa County up until 5 years ago when we activated 3-digit dialing for health and human services.
And that's the 211 number?
Through 211 Arizona.
And now you're extending it to veterans. What's the need there that you're trying to fill?
Yes, thank you. We are honored to be the 3rd site nationally for the National Initiative of Vets Community Connections. We're, by intent or default, we already handle veterans' calls seeking services through health and human services or government services. So we activated on November 14th, Monday, November 14th, where we will now assist veterans connecting to community resources and individuals and businesses who donate their time to help veterans reintegrate and military families as well.
Felix, how do you anticipate this will work?
Well, I think what it does is it puts a human touch on a really challenging problem for a lot of veterans transitioning. And so when a veteran's able to call into 211 and Vet Community Connections, they're given a real person from the community that they're moving to that they can actually connect with to get an answer, whether it's a question on jobs, whether it's a question on schooling, or whether it's a question on where to buy a home. When I transitioned in 2010 from active duty and I was moving out to Arizona, I didn't know anybody in the state. I didn't have this type of service. And now that this service does exist, it will accelerate the ability for veterans to not only transition, but to integrate into community in a much more positive manner.
What about those who have more serious issues, medical care, psychiatric issues, and so forth? Will this be of any assistance there?
Well, the thing about really the Vet Community Connection and the whole gamut that it runs with people of expertise is when you call in, you get a personal connection. You'll normally have something that they can answer. If you don't answer, if they don't have the answer, they're going to be able to plug you into 211 to get the resources that you do need. And so you're automatically connected to much more resources that you didn't have otherwise.
So, Catherine, it'll be a full-service referral source.
Absolutely. Currently, 211 Arizona, we're just in our 5th year of service to the state of Arizona. We have over 36,000 services available statewide and growing every day. And like most veterans, military families coming back, and we're going to add on to that with a special database of the community members and their services as well.
So there'll be a lot more to talk about down the road.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll have you back to discuss it. And thank you so
Absolutely.
much for joining us on Horizon.
Thank you
to
very
talk
much.
about it.
Appreciate it.
Thank
And that
you.
is our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Jose Cardenas in for Ted Simons. Have a good evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.